Ladies and gentlemen, this is an ill-advised Friday night freestyle. Tonight I went out on the town. I had texted my group of new friends that I had mentioned in the last video. I've made this new group of friends. They're not like great friends, but they're just people I know. They're in a group, whatever. And I said, hey, I'm going to be at this place. Let's get a drink. Come on, guys. And the response was deafening silence, except for after a while, one girl responded and said, hey, thanks for the invite, but that's too far from me. And I'm like, girl, this is 15 minutes from where you live, and it's 30 minutes from where I live. So how is it too, like, what world do you live in where 15 minutes away is too far away from you? I wanted to respond and say, well, relative to, like, the distance from here to Neptune, it's infinitesimally small. So, come on out. So I drank alone at a bar for a while, and then I walked around the town, and I felt actually very happy to be out amongst people, even though I wasn't interacting with anyone. I think that it's very necessary for me, at least, to be around people. I really enjoy it. I think sometimes we tell ourselves this lie that we need to be alone and secluded and cloistered in our little world, and that people suck and we don't want to be a part of them and no one understands us and we're so special and all that stuff. But there's something that I really like about going out and just being around people, even if I'm not talking to them. And it's not just being around them, but like I'm walking down the street, passing all these strangers, and I'm alert, I'm aware, and my eyes are up, and I'm looking at all these people, and most of them, they're not looking at me, they're not aware. Occasionally though, someone does make eye contact, and we see each other, and there's a human connection there. Oh, that reminded me. Here's a little bit of footage from my evening. I passed a shop. Check it out. So check out this office here, this vacant office. There's just one desk in the middle looking out. It's this big old space with a roll of toilet paper there. Now, like, what's going on? What does this person do all day? They have a stack of papers on their desk and a roll of toilet paper in the chair. I could stare at this for hours. This is fascinating. I didn't stand there that long. It wasn't hours, but I stood there for 2 minutes just looking into this window because that was just like this empty space. What's going on there? Like, who sits at this desk looking out at the street? It's like 20 feet away from the window. That's all there is. And there's a frickin' roll of toilet paper on the seat. Like, what is going on there, man? Anyway, so I'm walking around the streets of the old town. And I just felt this weird feeling. Like, some of you aren't going to like this. Sorry. But, you know, there's that... it's kind of a more Eastern idea that we are all manifestations of the Creator, of God, and that God is dwelling in each of us, and our experience of consciousness is just one little window into reality that God is using to experience reality. Now, I know a lot of you are not going to like that. You're going to say, man, that's not biblical, man. Okay, but I find it very interesting. And I was feeling that tonight, like looking around and seeing all of this. If you want to just take it to a much more relatable place, just seeing all these different people in their lives and what that's like. Passing on the streets, you know, there's outdoor seating at these restaurants, and just hearing, you know, the waiter tell someone what the specials are for today, and it's like, this is something that's totally not part of my reality, but to these people here, this is their life. And my life has nothing to do with theirs. And I found it so mesmerizing, just the life around me, and which seems like a very basic thing, but so often we don't. So, what was it? David Foster Wallace, I think, in one of his essays or speeches or something, said, "You are at the center of every experience you have." So basically, everything that you know, you're the center of it. And so it's important to have these experiences where mentally you can start to realize that all these other people around you are the center of their own experiences, and that there's so much more to life that you'll never experience. It's nights like these where I just find life so amazing. And another thought that I was having today as I drove along in my car, as opposed to in my horse-drawn carriage. Well, so backing up, this is where the thought came from, is that, I had texted this group of friends, it's like 12 people. I said, hey, let's go meet up. Let's have a drink, man. That's something I would never do. And as I sent the text, I was like, this is something I'd never do. But I've started to think of different things in social situations and just life in general, like, let's just experiment. Let's see what happens. Let me do something that I wouldn't normally do. Like, this is not the authentic me, whatever that means. Let me just see what happens. Let me experiment, because me, what I do, who I am, what is authentic to me is actually kind of malleable. It's not like set in stone. So anyway, that made me think, this is a way to approach life, man. To be an experimenter. That we all should be experimenters, like going into life, trying to experience life, see what happens when I do this. Like, to push ourselves, just in the simple things, like, what happens if I'm open with these people? What happens if I put my neck out there? What happens if I risk something and put my pride on the line? Or if I risk being embarrassed? What happens? Let's see what people do. Let's see how people respond, and I'll learn something from it. Because so often I think we get calcified in our identities, and our identities we don't realize identity is often just wrapped up in these things that we cling to. Identity isn't necessarily always ironclad and something that you're born with. Reading the comments on a lot of these videos, I feel like a lot of you out there, don't take this the wrong way, but I feel like a lot of you out there, me included, have identified too much with this idea that we are not social people, that we are not good at making friends, and that we don't have a lot of friends, we don't need friends, and F them, like, screw everyone else. And up until very recently, I was very attached to this idea of myself. And more I'm thinking that that's not really me. That's just where I found the most comfort. And it feels authentic because it takes the least effort. It takes effort, and it's painful to put yourself out there and say to people, hey, this is me. Do you want to have a meaningful friendship with me? Do you want to have a relationship with me? Or even just, do you want to interact with me? Like, it's very painful when you take those risks and you get shot down. And for people like us, if you're INFJ or INFP or whatever, one of the more intuitive types who's a bit more on the outside of what's normal, because most people aren't intuitive, you often are met with a lot of rejection in the world, and most people don't get you and don't care to try. But you shouldn't cling to that, and you shouldn't, like, cloister yourself. I made a video called I Gave Up Trying to Come Out of My Shell, and I think it was like for a year or so, I was trying to come out of my shell, like this idea that I need to be more social and blah, 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 whatever. The intention was good, but it was like I was trying to force connections with people and I was like trying to make something happen, man. But the thing is, coming out of you, I gave up trying to come out of my shell because I realized that coming out of your shell isn't going out there and like making something happen and you gotta you know trying to force something to happen, because that is truly inauthentic, is when when your behaviors really go against your makeup. But there's a difference between that and doing things you're not comfortable with because you're trying to grow. And what I think I've realized is that coming out of your shell doesn't necessarily mean trying to pretend you're an introvert or pretend you're an extrovert, but it means being open, like pushing yourself to be more open and more vulnerable, to take more risks than you feel comfortable with, but to still stay true to yourself. Because a lot of you probably aren't going to like this either, but INFJs are very socially wired. Our second function is extroverted feeling. People are important to us. And maybe your extroverted feeling is underdeveloped. And, honestly, even though it's our second function, that doesn't mean that it comes naturally or anything. But I'm 30 and I feel like my extroverted feeling has not really gotten very developed until recently. But it's our second function, man. And it's the first extroverted function, which means that's the way the world sees us first and foremost, because you don't see introverted functions, you see extroverted functions. So if an INFJ isn't trying and is just kind of resigning themselves to a sucky life, then yeah, you're not going to have any friends and you're going to hate being around people and all that stuff. But if you start to develop that second function, you're going to realize you're actually kind of good at it. You're good at navigating social situations and all that. As an INFJ, you need people. You need to be social. We're the most extroverted of the introverts. And while I did say in the INFJ fade that our default is to be taking in and not give out energy and all that stuff, that's our default, but that doesn't mean that that's the happiest mode of being for us forever, all the time. We need to go into that second function where we're going out and engaging in the world. So there's my Friday freestyle. Go out there, push yourself, be social and all that. Thanks for watching. Like if you liked it, subscribe if you liked it, and all that jazz. I'll see you again sometime soon. And yeah.